Speedway, the world center of racing in Daytona Beach, Florida, as we get ready for 3 hours of sports car racing. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. We have live golf coming up here on ESPN, so we're speaking to you from our announce position here at Daytona, and the cars are on the track, and we're ready to go racing in the 3-hour finale to the Camel GT season, the Eastern Airlines Camel Grand Prix. Bill, Adam, a lot of questions yet to be answered, but the one that has already been answered for this year is the Camel GT Championship.
Well, Al Hobart has again clinched a brilliant year, but there's something remaining. He wants to win this race. It's critical for his teammate Derek Bell to win this race and retain second place. A lot of prestige here, and much more important, there's a heck of a lot of money at stake, Bob.
So we have the Camel Grand Prix cars. We also have Camel Lights machines in this race, but one of the big stories we'll be following deals with the GTO machines, the muscle cars. Patrolling pit road today will be our own Gary Lee, and he's standing by now with more on that story.
Good afternoon, and thank you. Well, 2 titles will be contested this afternoon. First of all, the GTO Drivers' Championship between Ford teammates Scott Pruitt and Bruce Jenner, and the GTO Manufacturers title between Chevrolet and Ford. Now, for Ford to win the title, Ford would have to win with Chevrolet worse than third. A lot of pressure is being applied by the manufacturers on the drivers to win it, and it's no secret. There's a lot of bad blood between these drivers after that shootout at Columbus. They say they'll have a clean drive, but after all, there's no tomorrow.
Thank you, Gary, and here's the way they'll line up as the cars warm up around this 3.56-mile circuit. On the pole will be Cyril van der Merwe in the record-shattering Corvette GTP car, alongside Irish endurance veteran John Watson in the BMW machine, the same row as this race last year. On the second row will be Klaus Ludwig in a 4-cylinder turbo Ford Probe, alongside Al Hobart sharing with Derek Bell in a Porsche. Row 3 will see Pete Halsbury in a V8 turbo Ford Probe, alongside Bob Tullius and Chip Robinson in the Jaguar XJR7. Row 4 will have Whitney Gantz and Jim Crawford in a Buick Hawk, 6 different makes in the top 7 positions for this race, alongside our in-car camera, the 67 Porsche of Jim Busby and Jochen Maas. Davy Jones and John Andretti will share the second BMW team car on row 5, alongside the international trio of John Winter, Paulo Barilla, and Bob Wallach. Drake Olson will be starting a Ford Probe on row 6, taking over for Tom Bloy. John Hotchkiss and Jim Adams will be in another Porsche. Moving to row 7 will be Brian Redman and Hurley Haywood in the second Jaguar XJR7, alongside Ken Madron and David Murray in a Buick March. The big story in GTO starts on row 10, where Scott Pruitt and Bruce Jenner will start alongside one another, followed by NASCAR star Bill Elliott and Willie T. Ribbs. Ribbs formerly drove for the Ford team. He now leads the forces of Chevrolet in the Camaros, hoping to take that GTO championship away. Good shot there. Scott Pruitt and Bruce Jenner. Scott started that car. He qualified that car for his teammate Bruce Jenner, who could not be here, and I'd say he did a pretty good job of it. Jenner will start second in GTO with a shot at overtaking his teammate. As we said, Bill Elliott will be in the second row in GTO alongside Willie T. Ribbs in the Camaro. Jack Baldwin, who crashed hard 3 weeks ago with Scott Pruitt, a second Camaro. And then come the Toyotas, the potential spoilers. Dennis Ossie, his teammate, will be on the next row. Chris Cord. Our top Camel Lights qualifiers, the lightweight prototype cars. 2 Italian cars, Ruggero Melgrati and Martino Finotto in a Ferrari-powered Alba racer. The other, Carlo Ficcetti, Roger Andre, and David Loring in a Ferrari-powered Taiga racer. Okay, Bill Adam, this should be a tremendous 3-hour battle. A lot of championships on the line. There is no tomorrow with regard to this race.
Well, it's going to be a great start here, too. As you mentioned, we do have the same front row as last year with incredible horsepower here. We've got this beautiful Corvette GTP 900, 1,000 horsepower available when they want to use it. And it's very much a question, how much have they got the boost turned up?
Okay, you see the pace car moving off. They're about a half mile from the start-finish on this 3.56-mile, 13-turn Daytona International Speedway course. It is Cyril van der Merwe in the Corvette bringing them down. The BMW staggers slightly as they head into the turn. We are racing at Daytona. Give it to van der Merwe on the brake, and he is outbraked going into turn 1 by the BMW of John Watson.
That's really a little bit of a surprise, but then we have to remember the car is being driven conservatively for the first lap. There's so many people can crash in the first lap. An old axiom, you never win a race in the first lap, but there have been a lot lost.
Tremendous battle as they head out on the first lap of the Daytona International Speedway course. You see the Chevrolet in second, being challenged briefly there by the Ford Probe as the field makes its way around the turn. There is the BMW out in front, followed by the Chevy Corvette and the Ford Probe of Klaus Ludwig in third.
Well, this is going to be interesting. We're watching the cars. We got a spin already. That's just the hairpin that leads up, or the horseshoe area that leads up to the area on the infield course.
No damage appears to be done there. That was the 58 Camel Lights car of Deborah Gregg, one of the few women drivers in the field. sharing with McBride in a Porsche-powered Tiger Racer. Remember, there are 3 classes of cars running in this race as we watch our leaders doing battle on the 31-degree bankings here at Daytona. The BMW of John Watson out front.
Now, here we go.
Here's a second.
Yeah, braking maneuver going into the chicane at the end of the back straight. That's running right there, 175 miles an hour, just getting inside the car and using all the braking power available. Watch the Corvette, too, as it exits the banking. Let's see, can 3.4 liters of V6 hold off this ultra-exotic BMW turbo? And it looks like it is.
Watch the gap widen between South African Sarah van der Merwe, now living in Indianapolis, Indiana. We've had a spin. The 66 light car.
This is the turn, I believe, that leads onto the banking, Bob. Nobody around him. There won't be any problem. You can see there's a track marshal, has time to run out.
Could be very dangerous as we watch it pass as Al Holbert sticks his Porsche out to 3rd place, it looks like, past the Ford Probe. We expect a lot of passing. We'll do our best to stay on top of it. As soon as things settle down a little bit, we'll go down our top 5. But there goes the Chevy Corvette, the number 19 BMW in 2nd place, followed by Al Holbert in the number 14 Porsche 962.
Well, Al is running hard already here. I just wonder if he doesn't want to try and get up into the lead and maybe pull away. Just give his teammate as much as possible. Oh, great shot. Now, here we're inside one of the BF Goodrich Porsche 962s, going through the kink here, approaching a 180-degree corner. We're from 4th down to 2nd gear at this point, a late apex, and here you're feeding on the power as gently. Look at the hands sawing over that steering wheel. You're trying to put down 800 horsepower at this point. The car wants to get sideways.
Excuse me, Bill, there you see Jim Downing. That's the number 63 Mazda-powered Argo racer. We think it's an oil pressure problem, as the report we're getting. That would be bad. Jim Downing, the defending champion, badly wanted to win this race.
Up onto the banking here, back in our 962 camera car. We're up into 5th gear at this point, already at 150, 160 miles an hour. The car is still accelerating like crazy. Look at this vibration. We're at 175 miles an hour right here, and just there. On the brakes very hard, down to 4th, down to 3rd. Little sweep to the left, back to the right. Look at the car ahead of us, one of the Ford Probes. You can just see it twitching very slightly as it hits the bumps. Now we've got horsepower here, and look at this. That's the V8 engine Ford that we're watching, and obviously the Porsche got the boost up that much sooner. We're up well over 180 miles an hour right here. The vibration is just what you feel. That comes through the steering wheel, through the seat. Very, very fatiguing situation. We're almost 195 miles an hour right at this point as we're crossing the start-finish line right in front of us.
One of many laps yet to come. The kinds of speeds these cars are hitting are absolutely phenomenal. Through the speed trap in practice, there are 2 Corvettes in this field. Both hit the speed traps at better than 200 miles an hour. The Porsches right in the 190 mile an hour. Oh, and a bad shunt here.
That's at the chicane on the back straight. An area where there's very, very heavy braking. What can sometimes happen? We're looking at one of the GTP light cars. The cars have phenomenally good braking. These are real ground effect cars and can really slow down quickly.
Now, that was a big story. That was the 25 lights car of Pachetti, Andre, and Loring. And Willie T. Riggs is on pit road as well. Dramatic action here in the early stages of the race.
Tremendous blow for Chevrolet at this point. Willie was running a 6-liter motor in that Camaro, and we talked to him earlier. He made no bones about it. He wanted to get out and run as hard as he could go. No waiting for anything to develop. Just put your foot down and charge the whole 3 hours. It looks like something blew because that was oil coming out the exhaust pipe, and it doesn't look good.
Got a lot of cars visiting pit road. A couple of Camel Lights competitors are already there. Here's another look at the chicane incident that involved the 25 Camel Lights car.
There's a perfect example. The GTP light car tried to go down the outside, passing a GTO car, number 32. Didn't get an opportunity. Look what's happened to the cars following. They've had no option to go through that corner, have made a very wise and instantaneous decision to go straight through. They probably won't be penalized for that because that really was a good move.
Had to go straight or risk an accident. Willie T. Riggs remains on pit road as you watch our leader, the awesome black Chevrolet Corvette GTP of Sarah van der Merwe, sharing that car today. In fact, sharing that car and a second-team car with Doc Bundy, his regular co-driver, and the young former Trans Am champion Wally Dallenbach Jr. out of Basalt, Colorado. This is my personal favorite of the race, Bill. This is a car built for this kind of a racetrack. Tremendous horsepower, as much as 900 horses, we understand. They sat on the pole in this race last year. In fact, in 6 races going back to 1984, Sarah van der Merwe, mostly in this car, has never been off the front row at Daytona International Speedway. So they have the right man and the right machinery.
And here's a good battle right here. We've got the 04 Jaguar fighting with the Price Cobb and Rob Dyson Porsche. They had a little bit of a problem in qualifying. They're not really in their usual spot. Usually up in front of the grid. Rob hit the wall and it caused quite a bit of damage. His crew has had a tremendous job of rebuilding that entire right rear corner. Here it is out battling with one of the factory Jaguars are doing. They're both having a great run right now.
The yellow flag is out. The yellow flag is out on the racetrack. We're looking for an explanation. You see one of the Ford probes. One of the Ford probes creeping down pit road. We'll try to follow up those stories for you in just a moment.
I think with this yellow flag situation, we may have a pace car coming out, although I don't see any signs of it yet, Bob.
No, the pace car has not yet taken to the... Yeah, you see
Jaguar going very slowly right here, up on the banking, following the pace car, I'm sure. Yes, definitely, that will be a pace car incident. This is a little bit frustrating. You've just got your blood in gear at this point. You want to get out. You want to race. The race is only a couple of laps old. You're starting to get into the feel of things, and now you've got to slow down. Frustrating point right now.
A lot of action in the early stages of this 3-hour event. Gary Lee is standing by on pit road now with Willie T. Ribbs. Let's go down to Gary.
Willie, a lot riding on that GTO Manufacturers Championship, a lot riding with you today. What happened?
The engine just went soft. It just tightened up and blew up, and didn't take long to do it, 2 laps. We don't know why. It's never done that before, ever, since we've never blown an engine from this year.
So now, obviously, Jack Baldwin has all the pressure on him for the GTO Manufacturers Championship.
Baldwin's got to carry the load now.
All right, there it is from Willie T. He's a spectator.
Well, the plot thickens here at Daytona International Speedway. Today's live coverage from Daytona is being brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. By Dodge Raceway, Bob Barsha and Bill Adam with you. Gary Lee down on pit road. We are under caution. Cyril van der Merwe and Doc Bundy leading the race in a Corvette prototype over Derek Bell and Al Holbert in a Porsche, BMW and Watson and Hobbs third, Jim Busby and Jochen Maas fourth in our camera car. There's a look at our GTO leader right now. That's Scott Pruitt out of Roseville, California. He's in just the position he needs to be in. Pruitt needs to win this race to clinch his GTO championship, not only his personal driving championship, but also the manufacturer's title for Ford. Dennis Ozzie follows in one of the 4-cylinder turbo Toyotas, and Bruce Jenner is in third spot in another Ford Mustang.
Tremendous pressure, as you say, on Scott today, and I think Jack Roush maybe is showing some of it by very uncharacteristic running a high cubic inch motor. This car's running a 6-liter engine, which usually runs a 5, but they figure it's going to offset the additional handling and braking the smaller engine gives you with just all that horsepower for Daytona.
While our GTO machines are working well for Ford, the probes apparently are not. Gary Lee is standing by with Tom Gloy.
Well, one driver that is indeed resting here in the shade is Tom Gloy. And Tom, I have to ask, you were supposed to start in the number 2 car, but you're a spectator right now. What caused the switch?
Well, we decided at the last minute that we had the best opportunity with 3 reasonably competitive cars, that if I stayed here and took the second stint in the lead car, that we could win this thing. Unfortunately, obviously, we run into some trouble early. We'd hoped that the 7-Eleven car would be up front. I don't know what's gone on with that. You told me that just a minute ago that it pulled behind the wall. So now we've experienced a little bit of turbo problem in the V8 car. So it looks like the best shot that we have now is the original car I was supposed to start in.
So it could be a long day for the probes.
Okay, thank you, Gary. The field continues under caution, and they've gotten the 1-lap signal. At the end of this lap, we expect the green will be thrown. In fact, they will probably throw that green flag in the banking, and we'll be racing once again.
This is a bit of an unusual situation. At a track, normally you wait until you get around to the start-finish line before you get a green, but at Daytona, because it's such a large track, you can get the green just as you finish the infield section of the track, and therefore the leader can have a tremendous gap in only 1 lap. You jump on it, you've got all that traffic behind you. Maybe can't pass a slower car. Now here we've got Al Holbert and the BMW following, but we've got a GTP light car between them and this car, number 67.
There's the 0 car. Now, that's an unusual machine. That is a foreign-sponsored entry, the Yost Racing entry, a team that has dominated European endurance racing. This is their initial season, just winding up now on the Camel GT circuit here in the United States. An international trio, Paula Barilla, Bob Wallach, and John Winter driving that machine. We are green once again, and off goes the Chevrolet Corvette.
Look at the horsepower here. There's the GTP car, like just keeping low, allowing the higher horsepower full GT prototypes to get up high in the banking, use all their horsepower. Through the chicane here, this is just this little wiggle down the front. Now see Serraler, he just slid wide. What happens is to do a few pace laps like that, your tires cool off, and these racing tires have to run at temperatures approximately 200 degrees Fahrenheit to really work properly. You start to lose that temperature and they really slip. But look at this, horsepower city. Wow.
Cyril van der Merwe, the Corvette, has 7 poles to his credit this season. That's an IMSA record. 2 victories in Atlanta and West Palm Beach. You saw that West Palm Beach race live here on ESPN. What a terrific finish that was. Meanwhile, he's racing the reigning master of IMSA, Al Holbert, in the number 14 Porsche. Holbert and Bell have shared in 6 victories this season.
You know, what an incredible team they are. Like this man is just so brilliant with racing. Rarely.
Oh, and there goes the Corvette. Now that's the 22 machine. That's not your leader.
That was Doc Bundy.
That was either Doc Bundy. I believe that might be Wally Dallenbach in that machine. Going off at one of the slowest parts of the racetrack, that first turn just before the little kink going onto the infield. Now we confirmed it's Doc Bundy in the car.
Here's a replay of it, just getting shut off. Tried to go inside where really he shouldn't have tried it. He had no business trying that move.
Bundy hit the Corvette.
Oh. No, I think that was the back of the Jaguar.
The 44 Jaguar, and there is some serious deja vu there. If you remember our report on the Riverside race, Doc Bundy and the 44 Jaguar came together with a Ford Provo Lynn St. James in a fiery wreck. But this is just Doc Bundy spinning by himself.
That could almost have been disaster right there, taking both cars out of the race. It was very, very close. That's precisely what may have happened, is that Doc came in far too hard into that corner on cold tires. Didn't have the traction necessary. Really tried a very ill-advised move at that point. This is early in a 3-hour race. You just don't make deliberate banzai charges right now.
Good look there at the number 19 BMW prototype car. A lot of controversy surrounding that team right now. The rumor on pit road is that the BMWs might not be back in 1987, which would be a serious blow to the Camel GT. There's been a lot of money spent on those cars. They picked up their first victory just about a month ago in Watkins Glen, New York. We'd very much like to see them come back this year. Here are your 8th, 9th, and 10th cars on the racetrack. The Jaguar, followed by the second team BMW. Now that's the junior car, young John Andretti and Davy Jones in that machine.
Now, interesting study right here, Bob. He's setting up, just drafting, maybe going to try a pass, braking to turn 1, just where he saw Doc Bundy. I don't think he'll do it this time. Not close enough. The Jaguar has got excellent braking, very, very stable, very good car to go into the corners with.
Also a good battle there between the types of motor hardware we have on this series. The 6.5-liter non-turbocharged Jaguar, always thought to be a leg down. In this case, to the turbocharged 2.1-liter 4-cylinder machine, the BMW.
That's right. The viewers really can compare this. You can watch these cars exit the corner. Just one V12 engine, one 4-cylinder, one 6-cylinder. Just watch how the different horsepowers work.
Now we have Gary Lee on pit road with Klaus Ludwig. Let's learn more about the problems facing the Ford GTP team right now. Gary?
Well, Klaus started the race with about 1,000 horsepower, but he had to pedal back on a bicycle from the garage area. What's wrong with the Pro?
I think an oil leak in the turbocharger area. I don't know what. We tried a new charger today and had some problems.
You talk about the turbocharger. Pete Halsmer, your teammate right now, is parked behind us here in the pit area. He is having some control boost problems as well.
Yes, I don't know what he has, but I know that my car is definitely out. First lap it was running fantastic, and then I immediately saw that the boost was going down. Then I saw the smoke and just rolled into the garage.
So now Drake Olson has all the hopes of the Pro team in car number 2.
Okay, thank you, Gary. As you watch the action back out on the chicane, the 44 Jaguar of Bob Tullius has been passed by young Davy Jones in the BMW. There's Jones making his way up on the Buick Hawk.
Now, here's a real surprise. This is the Buick that I was so familiar with last year. An engine of tremendous horsepower. Yet look at the BMW, a very small 4-cylinder. Got right alongside of there for a minute, but now it appears the Buick's horsepower is taking over and is stretching out again. Interesting. You're seeing how power comes into play at different areas. The BMW at one range was actually faster in acceleration, and yet when it gets up into the 180, 190 mile an hour bracket, the Buick's torque probably just pulled it right back out, plus a horsepower advantage.
We'll have more racing live from Daytona International Raceway as you watch the Buick battling the BMW, followed by the Jaguar. Lots more to come. Van der Merwe and the Corvette remain your leaders.
of Spain.
Well, here at Daytona, sometimes we mix the sublime and the ridiculous. Bill, what do you make of this little off-course excursion?
I have never seen this. Somebody goes straight through. They're not able to slow the car down the chicane, but then I said, well, maybe I should go through part of it. Let's do a left turn here. I'll try a right across the grass, do a little farming. Maybe hit my competitor here. I better stay over. Oh, not sure where to go. Interesting piece of driving there.
And maybe no one will notice we're doing it. Meanwhile, here is the 67 Porsche 962. That's the Jim Busby Jochen Mass machine with a definite rubber problem.
Now, he has lost the entire carcass off that tire. We noticed just a few minutes ago, there is a piece of rubber down here. It appears that it might be off that car. Just the tremendous high speeds here, plus the loading, the banking will subject these cars to, puts an incredible strain on it. It only takes one small puncture in these tires that can cause this blowout. Obviously, at 200 miles an hour, it can do tremendous damage.
And the serious problem for them was that it happened right in front of pit road. Now, Jochen Mass is going to have to go all the way around this 3.5-mile racetrack to get repairs made. Meanwhile, up in front, the Corvette of Sarel Vandenbergen now being pressured hard by the 19 car. That's John Watson of the BMW.
Well, John may be laid back to the opening few laps. He's letting his tires get the temperature and really get comfortable with the car. Now, he's obviously very happy with it. He's closed right up on Sarel's tail. Sarel, I think, really wanted to establish a lead, if at all. Oh, look at this. He's trying desperately to get alongside, and he's done it.
He does it. John Watson lays a pass on Sarel Vandenbergen with Al Holbert lurking in the number 14 car in third position.
Beautiful piece of driving by John. He is set up nicely, coming out of a tight hairpin, and Holbert's by now. I wonder if Sarel maybe had to get off the gas just for a second because he was surprised by John. And as I said before, with the turbocharged motors, it's so critical to keep the boost. But look at the traffic they're coming up on.
Overtaking traffic now. Let's see if anyone will step aside to let the leaders through.
Oh, look like it.
There's a problem.
That's Holbert.
That's Holbert. Al Holbert is off in a big way at the chicane on the backstretch.
I'm not sure if he locked the brakes there or if something locked upon the car for him because there's a tremendous amount of smoke.
Everything appears to be all right. He's back underway. No damage to the car. I don't think he hit the wall. But you know Al Holbert's heart is beating right now. Let's take another look now at what happened to Al Holbert braking under traffic.
Now you can see the traffic. There's great congestion here, and Al is coming up very quickly. No place to go.
So Al Holbert spins off. It'll cost him a position. Let's go to Gary Lee on pit road.
Indeed, we can see all the rubber missing from that left rear tire as Jochen Mass brings in car 67. His co-driver is standing right here, Jim Busby. And Jim, if we can get a comment from Jim, how can you maintain control when the tire goes away like that?
With a lot of luck.
There you hear it from Jim Busby. A lot of luck on the part of Jochen Mass as he brings the BF Goodrich Porsche 962 back in. They change tires, refuel, and he's about to go back out.
Okay, Gary, well, you'd expect maybe in an endurance race like this, people were going to take some time. As you see, the 52 Corvette back out in front. But, Bill, this thing is starting to look like a stock car race. This is NASCAR door-to-door kind of stuff.
This is fantastic. I love 3-hour races because they're short sprint races. You go for it. You don't play any psychological games here and wait back and say, oh, maybe I'll get better mileage or maybe this will happen. You have to run hard. And look at these guys going at it, putting on a tremendous battle.
As Sarel Vandenbergen and John Watson duck between traffic. This, folks, is at 175 miles an hour. This is not your basic highway pass.
Well, what a pair of drivers to be doing with both brilliant drivers. John Watson, as you may note, is a real veteran, a Formula One winner, time and time again. Brilliant driver. Beautiful pair of cars.
Al Holbert, in the meantime, has visited pit road and gone back out. Apparently, the car is okay. Presently shown in third place is the Yost Racing entry with, we believe, Bob Wallach behind the wheel of that car. Wallach having won 2 races already this year. In the fourth position is the 04 6.5-liter 12-cylinder Jaguar. Let's go back down to Gary Lee.
Can you imagine what would happen on a passenger car at maybe 55 or 60 miles an hour on the interstate if this were to happen? Now, keep in mind, we're not sure why it happened or exactly what happened, but look at all the rubber in the middle section missing. This all happened at about 185 miles an hour. Jochen Mass was able to slow down, make the entire lap, come back in, change rubber, and he's back in competition.
Okay, Gary, thank you. As we watch our leader, Sarel Vandenbergen, a 9-time rally champion in his home country of South Africa. In fact, I read somewhere that Sarel even confirmed it to me in 1984, jumping back and forth across the ocean to race in South Africa and here in the United States. Sarel Vandenbergen spent the equivalent of 62 days on an airplane. So you can imagine what it must be like.
I just think what his Eastern frequent flyer mileage was.
There you see John Watson, who is presently trailing Sarel van der Merwe. Hey, the Raiders are beating Houston, Bill Adam. You'll be interested in that.
I love it.
All right, Miami looking to get another win. New England shutting out Buffalo at this point early on. On the racetrack, my Jets, 7-6. On New York. 3-0 shutout. Philadelphia's going to San Diego right now. We'll keep you updated on all the sports action throughout the day. Don't forget live golf coming up right after this race. So things are beginning to settle down, we think, here at Daytona. The action has been fast and furious. Scott Pruitt continues to lead the GTO division. At last word, he was being trailed by teammate Bill Elliott. Whoa, speaking of GTO, here's a problem.
Problem there. I think that's the Buzz McCall, the Skull Bandit Camaro. That beautiful looking car, except that smoke at the back looks very, very serious.
Buzz McCall and Walt Boren sharing that Chevy Camaro.
Very pretty car.
Now, the problem I see here, Bill, is he's in the racing line and could be dropping oil.
Yeah, I don't think he'll actually be dropping it at this point. It looks more like it's an internal problem. It's coming out the exhaust pipes. As long as that happens, the marshals are on the track. Part of their job is not only helping people when they run into problems, but they actually get out every once in a while and get as close a look as possible at the surface to try and determine if a car is dropping oil. And if it is, they hang out this yellow and red flag you see with the stripes across it. That warns drivers that here, we've got a slippery surface. Just be very careful, fellas.
13 laps complete as you watch your leader. Working lap 14.
Yeah, what a great battle they're having. They are really going at it. You can see that the cars that are third, fourth, and so on, they're not even in the ballpark at this point. These two have really pulled out a great...
Sarel van der Merwe driving one of two Corvettes, 3 drivers sharing the 2 cars. The action will continue on into the afternoon. BMW moving in closely. We'll be back to let you know exactly what happens as John Watson shadows Sarel van der Merwe. And the action continues here at Daytona. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Back at Daytona International Raceway, where your leader, Sarel van der Merwe, stays out front. In fact, we had a lead change, the 19 BMWs out front. Don't forget college football coming up this Thursday on ESPN. Cal State Fullerton versus Fresno State as the action continues on the track. How about that Kevin Sweeney on track to break Doug Fruity's all-time NCAA total offense record? It all starts Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, live on ESPN. You just saw the 52 car retake the lead. He lost it a moment ago, and here's where the BMW seems to be stronger on this racetrack, Bill.
Look at this. You can see they slide out a very tight 180 right-hander. John Watson gets up alongside, dives inside. Just a beautiful pass, the same place he did it before. Now let's see, can he do it this lap again? Here we're coming up to the 180. Just look at how John is staying out a lot wider. Gets in a little bit later. Now he'll be on the gas right now. Sarel is not on the gas fully. Here's the setup. Same thing again. Look at John trying to slide up. Yeah, he's going to try it. Up the inside, gets late on the brakes. Now he has to be late on the gas because he has such a strange line going on to the banking. Sarel, without question, would have a faster line in the banking. Now watch what happens here. The Corvette's horsepower should bring this car back up and give Sarel a shot coming back around the other end of this stock car pole. They should stay in this position through the chicane, I think, and Sarel will set him up for the exit. No, look at this. Oh, tremendous racing.
Sarel won't try it, won't try to go inside. There's too much at stake here. You might have noted the number 46 RC Cola March, the Buick March that we saw earlier, is now sitting on the grass. Attrition already taking its toll here at Daytona. Gary Lee is standing by with a little bit of an insight as to what happened to Al Holbert, now being shown 13th on the racetrack. Gary?
Well, Bob, one of the major concerns here in mixing all these classes is the approach speed. In fact, a problem with the slower cars is overtaking safely. The word is that Al Holbert came up on some slower cars, got on the brakes too hard, and spun. The operating temperature of these tires is well over 200 degrees, but as he spins, he flat spots his tire right here, and it also blisters this raised area right here. So a spin and a long pit stop have been costly for Al Holbert.
Okay, thank you, Gary. As we watch our leaders making their way around, see that turtle-like looking white car at the bottom of the racetrack? Good story behind that. That is an experimental Porsche 961, derivative of the Porsche supercar called the 959. We'll have more on that as the day goes on. Back to our leaders, and there is your GTO leader, Scott Pruitt, about to be lapped by the GTP leader, Sarel van der Merwe.
And Bob, look at this. Here we go once again. Is John Watson going to try the inside maneuver? No, Sarel's blocking. Look at this. Sarel stays in the middle of the track, doesn't give John the opportunity to get inside and pass again. Just tremendous battling going on. You saw the different cars.
Average speed at this point, 103, almost 104 miles an hour. The record for an entire 3-hour race, 107 miles an hour, set 2 years ago by Al Holbert and Derek Bell. There was your GTO leader, Scott Pruitt. There's also a good comparison there between the GTP cars and the O cars. Now, the GTO cars almost as fast as these GTP cars in a straight line, but in the corners, it's no contest.
Oh, no, it's really amazing that you think about a car having 600 horsepower and a very specialized race car, like Scott's Mustang, being blindingly fast, and yet look at the way he's pulled away.
That's the battle for second place in GTO. The number 9 car, NASCAR star Bill Elliott, in those familiar red and gold and white colors that we've seen on his Winston Cup car, just been passed by the 99 machine. That is the Toyota of Chris Cord. Now, the other Toyota, expected to be a spoiler in this race, the 98 machine of Dennis Ossie, has visited pit road and is having a problem, but Chris Cord is looking real good in second place.
Well, you know, Bill must be thinking right now, what's this little car doing out in front of me? He's so used to seeing cars that are 7 feet wide running 200 miles an hour. Of course, he's not used to doing this either. He's getting on the brakes. What's this all about?
I talked to Bill Elliott before. He said, look, my Winston Cup car weighs 3,700 pounds and it has about a 3-to-1 steering ratio. I get into this car, it weighs about 2,200 pounds, and the steering is 4 times, a 12-to-1 ratio, 4 times as sensitive. So you can imagine there's an adjustment.
Oh, he does such a good job, too. He really does show the old axiom that a good driver is a good driver is a good driver. You get somebody with the God-given ability, they can do a job no matter what kind of car they drive. And Bill is a perfect example of that. Very, very fast in the GTO car.
And that is how close the GTO battle is. The second place Chris Cord machine within spitting distance of the number 11 Ford of Scott Pruitt. Your top 3 as we watch Bill Elliott making his way through the sweeper and down the short chute to the hairpin. Running close together. Now here's the battle for the lead.
Isn't it? Now remember, the BMW is a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. The Corvette is a turbocharged V6. And you saw everything was identical there for a little while. Look at the horsepower. Hello, America.
And they close up under braking as the lightweight BMW pulls up on the heavier, more powerful Chevy.
Well, the BMW team, you know, I really do hope they don't pull out. But you can see across the back wing there's a black stripe. This is a little bit of sorrow on the crew members' part. They say this is the final race, that we're going to put a black stripe out. They have done such a good job because early this season, this car really was nothing but problems. They had a tremendously powerful engine, but almost no durability, and then they had a rash of fire. John Dix came over and Emery Donaldson. They really have changed this team around. A tremendously competitive car here. They've had a couple of very fine wins lately.
As you watch the lead battle continue, this 19 car is what they call the senior team. John Watson, David Hobbs, both in their, well, let's say, both in their 40s.
I wasn't even going to say that.
Paired up in the other car, the 18 machine, are the younger drivers, Davy Jones and John Andretti. You got to look at Al Holbert coming off pit road. As you watch your leaders make their way around, there goes Holbert in the white tail moving away from you. Holbert has visited the pits again, and he's obviously got a more serious problem than we thought.
Yeah, I wonder if Al maybe didn't do some damage there in that high-speed spin. Sometimes things are happening so quickly that you really can't take a chance on running that strong net on. You may over-rev. Oh, look at this. Off the inside again. Watson. He loves doing that.
John Watson once again takes the lead. Here's a look at the other Corvette, the 22 machine, virtually identical to a sister car on the track, and this looks terminal.
Definitely not a normal stop once that rear hood comes up. They're checking something in the engine compartment. There's Doc sitting in there.
Okay, Gary Lee is standing by on pit road.
We were just checking with the crew of the 52 vet to see when the leader would be pitting. We were told the 52 vet with Van der Merwe would come in about lap 25, and all of a sudden all the attention turned down pit road to car 22. Doc Bundy has stopped. The engine has been cut, and Doc opens up the right side door. He is unbuckling and is about to climb out. So momentarily we'll come back down here and have a word with the driver, Doc Bundy.
Well, I wonder if Doc maybe didn't have a little problem there when he went off during the excursion with the Jaguar. And sometimes, you know, when your mind really can't be on it, you're worried about saving the car, and you can over-rev it. There could be a number of different things can happen. This is too bad.
Maybe inhaled a little bit of the grass out there on the infield as well.
It's a good possibility. It wouldn't be very good for the motor.
But there is the healthy Corvette. That is Sarel van der Merwe leading John Watson as the battle continues.
This is a great show. The spectators here are really getting a treat with drivers of this caliber. logging. Oh, no. Now, here's a bad sign here for Al Holbert.
Al Holbert once again on pit road. Now, coming into this event, Al Holbert was handed a $50,000 check. There is a competition for the car, not the driver, but the car that travels the most miles in Camel GT competition this year, sponsored by the Kodak people. Holbert was leading, but there was a chance that the 67 machine could have overtaken him. In a pit contest with a special mileage award, the car that could have overtaken Holbert lost that 500-mile advantage. There is no way they can overtake Al for the championship and that $50,000 first prize. Now, the problem that we're being told Al Holbert has is a door that will not lock, and that could be serious aerodynamically. Back once again to our leaders. Cyril Vandermerve leading John Watson in what has been a two-car battle for the last 15 laps or so.
Well, what a show. Neither of these cars shows any signs of letting up at all. I think John probably, if this is to be the BMW's final race, he wants to make as good a show as possible. And, of course, Zone Eagle's on the line. He doesn't like to come second. Now, here's a good example of what can happen when you blow a tire at high speed. You can see the entire rear body section is gone, and the rubber, what's left of the tire, is just flapping around. This not only has destroyed the body of the car, but can do tremendous suspension damage because you've got this great balance problem. You've got tremendous flailing rubber going around. It takes out everything that's close to it.
That was the second-ranked Camel Lights machine of Carlo Facchetti, Roger Andri, and David Loring, a Ferrari-powered Tiger racer. Lots of racing yet to come. 20 laps down. Stay with us. We're at Daytona International Raceway, and we are live with the Camel GP.
Only the sixth, and I was just really taking it easy, but it'll take too long to fix it, so we're just going to take it out of the race.
You had a young driver standing by on Wally Dallenbach. Now that you have Doc Bundy available, who will go back out when the other vet pits?
Doc will go back. But, you know, right now I think that's the plan. We'll just put Doc back in the car behind Cyril. She's had more time in the car, and with Cyril leading the race, that's probably what we'll do.
So it could be a very disappointing day for young Wally Dallenbach.
Okay, Gary, talk about disappointment. If you had looked to your right, you would have seen that the Rick Hendrick Motorsports entry in the GTO class, Jack Baldwin, is on pit road with his hood up, and this could be doomed for Chevy's hopes of that GTO championship.
Oh, the Chevrolet hearts are going to be real sore right now. And here we are, our fellas back out here just still playing hard. John follows him out of his very tight left-hand corner, right down second gear. They're trying to get down their 800 horsepower, 900 horsepower as they're going up on the bank. Very fast section, but you got to be careful. That wall up there does not give you a second chance.
Taking a very high line through the 31-degree banking here at Daytona. Cyril Vandermerve leads. A dozen more cars behind him, all on the lead lap. The pace has been furious here. And they're finally giving up the ghost. The number 30 car, that's a GTO machine, a Chevy Camaro, Buzz McCall and Walt Boren.
I think the red that we're seeing there doesn't have any significance as it being a Christmas present. It looks like that was just some racer tape that was put on there, maybe masking over some earlier damage.
Whoa, and here's a spinner. Now here is one of the Ford Mustangs, one of four in this field. That 64 car, a Hester Hasse machine. This car won the Daytona 24 Hours way back in February when the Camel GT Series began this year. Lanny Hester and Maurice Hasse apparently out of it. Holbert back on pit road.
This is a most unusual day. They're just having no end of troubles. I think Al was in before, as you're saying, for some sort of a door problem. But right now, if the driver's door up and they're chatting with them, it's got to be a mechanical problem. Possibly something with the boost. It looks like they're looking around the intercooler area right there.
Al Holbert, a five-time champion in the series, second only to 7 titles, won by the late Peter Gregg. Al has also clinched his second in a row. He won last year's title as well. First man to do that since Gregg did in 78 and 79. Here we are once again with our leaders, and we're approaching what is probably going to become known as John Watson's corner.
That's right. You know, the viewers are going to be thinking this is a replay. Well, this isn't. This happens the same way every lap. And look at this. No, he doesn't. Cyril is. Look at this. Cyril got in too deep. You saw the car get sideways, and John took quick advantage. Dove underneath, back on the gas, up on the banking, into the lead.
Now, what would you like to bet that Cyril Vandermerve was looking in his mirrors when Watson threw the fake and then got on his brakes too late?
Exactly. John is a real veteran here, as we said, Grand Prix winner in Formula One. We're going to get a replay of this just so you can see. Look at this now. Searle starts to watch John, wants to get in and not let him go by. He gets so deep, the back wheel's locked up. You saw that the black streaks coming off those rear wheels. He couldn't turn into the corner. John was fast enough to realize what was going on, dove to the inside, was hard on the power by the time Searle got his car stabilized.
We're 22 laps down, about to complete lap 23, and we've had about that many lead changes. Let's go back to the GTO story, and here's Gary Lee.
Well, right now, all the hopes for the Chevrolet manufacturer's title are riding with Jack Baldwin, and Jack is having his trouble. Brad Francis, what is the problem?
Well, we have a small dial on the throttle shaft that has a little Allen screw in it, and it came loose. And it's changed our fuel mixture, but we've corrected it, but it took too much time.
What prevents it from coming loose a second time?
Well, we've got it pretty tight right now. I hope it'll be all right.
Once again, without the luxury of a 12 or 24-hour grind, he doesn't have a whole lot of time to make up.
Okay, thank you, Gary. As you can see, our second-place car, the Corvette, has pitted. And here is the 19 car. Oh, my word.
Absolute disaster on one lap.
Now, we're 23 laps in. Can we suppose, Bill, that these were supposed to be routine stops and perhaps the BMW has run out of gas?
I don't know. It almost looks like it has. There's no signs of any damage at all. The car is fine. There's no smoke out of it. It just suddenly came to a stop. In fact, yeah, it has stopped dead now. The Corvette was in the pits really just for a rear tire change. They can't take the risk of running flat spotted tires that may have been taken down to the cord at a 200-mile-an-hour pace. The potential of a blowout is very, very dangerous.
Well, there you saw John Watson, who is right now loosening the belts and getting out of his machine. He's going to have to push it unless they retire the car and the officials pull him in. A tremendous disappointment for the BMW team, who wanted to score their second victory in what could be their last race in Camel GT competition. There is the 52 car coming back off pit road, and unless I'm mistaken, Bill, I saw Wally Dallenbach Jr. get in the car, and here is 19 back underway.
Now, okay, it's got to be what I would guess to be an electrical problem. These cars have very sophisticated fuel management systems in them. They're incredibly complex units, but they all have backup systems. What may have happened is that one has failed, and John has had to plug one out, plug one in, and get the car fired up again. It looks like that could be its always the problem. I hope that's
so much for my gas theory, but you see they're fueling the car, adding tires, and David Hobbs will take over for John Watson. So what started out as a scheduled pit stop has become an adventure for BMW.
Well, David Hobbs is going to have a good afternoon out there. John just buckling him in there, helping him get the shoulder belts over. Sometimes a little bit of a problem. These cars are very cramped. You really can't do it easy yourself. What John does is put the belt over David's shoulders, makes it easier to do it.
47-year-old David Hobbs from Priors, Hardwick, England. And here is the 18 BMW trailing the Jaguar through the kinks. The 04 Jaguar, that's the Brian Redman Hurley Haywood machine. Once again, a battle of youth and innocence versus age and experience. Brian Redman with over 15 World Endurance titles to his credit. A tremendously experienced driver battling Davy Jones, all of 21 years old.
Really, Brian is such a great driver. Such a nice person, too. Really enjoy Brian's company. They have been having this battle right since the start of the race. Really going at it. Maybe what BMW did was to say one car go out, run very, very hard, but one car just to hang back that little tiny bit. Run a little more conservative pace. Make sure you don't get into any dangerous situations.
Okay, Gary Lee is standing by now with John Watson, who just got out of the BMW 19 car. What you got, Gary?
Well, John, it appeared to be the start of a routine pit stop, but what happened?
Well, we were on schedule for a routine pit stop. Something happened. The engine cut out on just going out of the banking. I don't know what it was. Everything seemed normal. Fuel pressure was normal. I couldn't see anything. All the switches were on, but then I got it, just onto the pit entrance, got it fired up again, came in, but we lost a lot of time.
Drivers like to settle into a rhythm during the competition. This has been a wild event so far. Is there something wrong perhaps with track conditions or the wind? Is that a factor?
I don't understand why you say it's so wild. Just tell me that. I don't know.
Well, obviously you haven't been watching where we've been watching this.
Yeah, no, I have. I've only seen what's going on ahead of me and really trying to concentrate on the car in front of me, trying to take advantage of where I'm strong, where he's weak, and so we're seesawing a lot during the race.
Will you see more action, or are you finished?
No, I'll go back out after David's done this driving spell, and I'll get back in again to another one.
I'll have a chance to rest, and some more fun this afternoon live at Daytona.
Thank you, Gary. It is fun. And there you're watching the Zero car that is Bob Wallach, holder of 2 titles already this year, a recognized street master with victories at the Miami Grand months ago in Columbus. He started that car 10th. He is now running in first position.
Well, it looks like Bob's taking a page out of Al Holbert's book. The race is never over. And he just really didn't worry about that 10th place to start from. And has driven very, very smoothly. He's almost been very quiet. We haven't really had any excitement from that team at all. And yet, here he is leading the race. Going to be having a battle by the looks of things. There's that BMW that's lurking right behind him.
Certainly a pit stop is to be expected from the Zero team. I don't believe they've gotten their pit stop yet. But Bob Wallach leads the way.
Usually a turbocharged Porsche, the 962, can run about 55 or 60 minutes on a track like Daytona. So I would expect to see pit stops in the quite distant future.
25 laps complete as you watch the leaders making their way down the long back stretch. And here's a BMW underneath once again.
That car just looks like it has... Oh, and look at this. You saw Wallach sliding sideways. He did much the same thing as what Searle did just a few laps ago and what Holbert did at that very same spot. But tremendous car control. Now, remember, he is traveling at 175 miles an hour at that point, getting hard on the brakes. Here's the back of the car pulling out. Well, most of us, your heart's going to stop and just, can't do that. Wallach never gets flustered, just holds that slide, really doesn't scrub off very much speed, or more importantly, doesn't damage his tires.
But it does give a big cushion to the 18 BMW of Davy Jones. Meanwhile, the Jaguar 04 Brian Redmond closes right up on the tailpipes of the Porsche. And, well, I thought for a moment there he was going to try to get underneath.
I did as well. It looked like Brian might take a stab at it, but he just decided to wait. There wasn't enough room to get through it. You can see that as Wallach exited through that little chicane there, the car is bouncing a bit. He's hitting a combination of curbing and bad spots in the track. That's a spot where it's really not a good place to try and drop a wheel off like what he's doing. You can damage suspension, you can lose wheel weight. It makes it very difficult to drive if those sort of things happen.
Daytona International Speedway, a very wide open course. A course usually given, Bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, to the big power cars, the big horsepower cars like the Corvette. Not the favorite racetrack from the Jaguar drivers.
No, it really isn't. The Jags are a bit down on horsepower compared to the other cars. They have a V12 engine that puts out something about 7 corners without any problem. Don't waste time on wheel spinners. Very, very good race cars. A really nice package. Lee Dykstra did a great job on that one.
Oh, and they certainly sound great. Nothing like a V12 whine down the backstretch.
Oh, that's the prettiest.
And there you're watching the leader, the Zero car. Average speed, now 26 laps into the race, is up to 112 miles an hour. Well over the record pace, but a lot of racing still to come as you watch the BMW down the high banks and onto the front stretch. And onto pit road, it would appear.
Yeah, I think he is coming in.
This is Davy Jones in the junior car, showing a little cosmetic damage up there in the front right headlight area.
That will probably affect the car a little bit at high speed. With aerodynamics being so critical, this car will definitely have its handling changed because of the loss of that headlight door. The crew just doing a normal tire change. There's John Andretti just ready to jump in, getting the seat belts out of the way, and Davy's ready to help him.
John Andretti, nephew of IndyCar great Mario Andretti, cousin to Michael Andretti, who is challenging Bobby Rahal for the IndyCar PPG World Series Championship.
Looks like they might have had a little bit of a problem there. That's a very slow driver change.
Long driver change. John is a good bit shorter than Davy Jones is, and so there may be a problem getting those belts readjusted for his size.
Probably what they do is to use a seat insert. Now, you either put a piece of fiberglass in behind you to force you further ahead in the seat, or else you take one out depending on which driver is going in or out.
See, the jack has come down. The jackman held up his fist saying he was ready to let go, and the car is apparently stalled.
Yep, there he goes. Sometimes these cars have such tall first gears. It's almost like taking your street car and trying to start off in third gear. They have to be geared high because they're reaching 200 miles an hour.
So look at John Andretti there. Now we've got Gary Lee standing by on pit road with Derek Bell. Let's find out more about the troubled Holbert racing effort today.
I cannot believe how calm and collected you appear, because right now at stake is second place in the GT Championships, and your car is out there with a lot of trouble.
I'm not at all calm. I'm just very fed up. But what can you do? You know, things go wrong sometimes. He had an incident at the very beginning when Van der Merwe and he came together going in the chicane. He splattered a tire, and that put us back a bit. And now, of course, we've got a problem with the intercooler. The intercooler pipe has come loose. And, of course, it's right up inside the bulkhead, so it's very difficult to get at it.
And how long will he go out there before he actually turns the Porsche over to you?
Well, he'll probably have to do another round now.
So you're going to split the driving chores. Only one stint for you in the car today.
I guess it will be now, yes.
Like I say, he looks cool and collected on the outside, not so inside.
Well, Bill Adam, you called it. Turbo problem on the 14 car. Derek Bell, for the second year in a row, the World Sports Car Champion. Plenty of racing still to come. Your leader is now the 04 Jaguar, being driven by Brian Redmond. We'll be back live at Daytona right after these messages. We're back live at Daytona International Speedway, where you're watching the 04 Jaguar of Brian Redmond leading the way, and here is a serious problem.
Something has happened out in the backstretch there. You can see smoke coming out. Now, I don't know whether he's lost another tire or something has blown in the car, but he's stopped right now up by the Buick.
The 67 car, Jochen Maas and Jim Busby sharing that machine. That car was carrying our in-car camera, so unfortunately we may be without in-car pictures. Oh my.
A lot of smoke coming out. I don't think he's using any of the sponsor's product. That's a serious problem.
Well, they left a long stream of smoke down the backstretch, and it certainly looks like it's not going to go well for them. Now here's the 5 car. Englishman James Weaver hopping out. Team owner Bob Aiken getting in.
Great looking car. This is always a first-rate team. They just have such a nice operation.
Bob Aiken, a veteran of Le Mans racing and one of the best-known racers of vintage cars in the country. I believe he owns a Cooper.
Man, he is quite a stable.
A couple of Morris Minors. He races all kinds of vintage cars, does it well. Also does pretty doggone well here at the biggest level of sports car racing, the most powerful cars of all, the GTP machines.
It was great this year at Sebring watching them win the race with Hans Stucken. Had a very, very well-deserved victory. Here's the old Jaguar just screaming right along.
Brian Redmond at the wheel of the 12-cylinder non-turbocharged Jaguar.
If you could bottle that sound and sell it, you'd make a lot of money, Bob.
Now, here's a good example of the fuel mileage problem we referred to earlier. In fact, it's an advantage for this car. As you can see, 12 cylinders, fuel injected, but they do get better mileage than the other machines.
Definitely. With the fuel injection, it's a very strong point for them. And not only gives the mileage, but it's a very wide torque band that gets right in there. A great combination here.
700 horsepower, a little bit down to some of the big turbo cars, but on the other hand, they do inherit leads from time to time, as they have here now. Here is the 0 car once again. Bob Wallach has gotten out. I believe that's John Winter getting into that machine.
Just cleaning the windshield. What happens is that during the race, cars tend to throw up a lot of little chunks of rubber, and of course they're losing oil and some gas leading out the exhaust pipe. This coats the windshield, and in the late sun down here, like a late afternoon sun, it's really almost blinding. It's worse than any situation you get into on highway driving because of all this film in your windshield. And it's so important for this pit crew to do as good a job as possible. Squeaky clean there, guys.
Smooth pit stop, the 0 car, who have not lost much, well, here, even as we speak, something less than a smooth pit stop. John,
you can see the car jerking a little bit. He was letting the clutch out, trying to re-engage the motor without using up his battery. And I think he was successful. The car's fired up, and he's going down pit lane, exiting back onto the track.
There's your leader, the 04 Jaguar, the Group 44 machine. A lot of speculation about this team in Camel GT competition next year as well.
Yeah, it's strange that people have been talking a lot about the Tom Walkinshaw team from Europe possibly coming over. Now here's Scott Pruitt. This is our GTO leader. He's in the pits. Looks like a normal stop for him. All 4 tires being changed. You see the crew just putting the locking nuts back into place, giving him a little bit of a windshield clean.
GTO, a production-based category, built, designed to look like the kinds of machines you see out on the street. Obviously, it's not. It's a tube-frame chassis. It's a pure racing motor. And this young man, Scott Pruitt, is one of the drivers to keep an eye on here in the States. There is talk of Formula One. There is talk of prototype racing for this young man, who was once known as King of the Karts with 13 national championships in kart racing.
You know, after Columbus, I heard talk that there was a possibility of boxing as well for Scott.
Columbus was a fender banger, but right now Scott Pruitt is having it his way, as is this man Brian Redmond, 04 Jaguar.
This looks like the car that's been around IMSA now for the past 3 years, but in fact it really is a totally separate car. The viewers that are familiar with it will note that the low back end is really a departure. It used to have almost bat wings up on the back, 59 Cadillac Mentor type thing. Now we have it much, much lower. In fact, the chassis is completely different. That's why this is the XJR7 to designate the difference. It's a completely new car. Very, very good design, but both cars were done by Lee Dykstra.
49-year-old Brian Redmond, originally from Great Britain, now living in Jacksonville, Florida. Brian got his start in racing, he told me. When he was a young man, he was a mop-head salesman.
Now, Bob, look at this. You see the back of the car is loose. You just saw it as Brian hit the bumps there. Oh, and there's somebody else out visiting the grass. Underway.
55 machine. That's a GTO machine.
Yeah, I would suspect that was just maybe a little mental error there. It doesn't look like there's any damage to the car. Yeah, he's underway again, running strongly.
Greg Walker and North Northam, Floridians in a Chevy Corvette. Getting back to the Brian Redmond point, as a mop salesman, he began racing around the roads of northern England until he decided, well, maybe I better not do that anymore. Got himself into racing, much to his parents' displeasure, and here he is, perhaps one of the most honored drivers in international endurance racing.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of mop salesmen in the world that are very happy that he is now racing cars. I hope this bodywork doesn't create a problem for Brian. What can happen? You can see it again. Look at that. The bodywork is really flexing badly. And there's Bill Elliott in the pits.
Okay, Elliott shown in second place in GTO as he makes his way back out onto the racetrack. Scott Pruitt leading the GTO category. Elliott in second. Third place on the racetrack right now, the 99 machine. That's one of the Toyota Celicas. And running in fourth place, that is also a Ford Mustang as we watch the pit stop in the Dyson Racing pits. So the GTO category looks to be all Ford at this point. Here is one of the really thunderstruck teams of IMSA racing this year. They have destroyed 4 machines this year at about $250,000, $300,000 a car.
The price is even up now. The latest price I heard was $340,000 for one of those cars.
We have completed 1 hour, as you can see, as we watch a GTO car getting sandwiched down the back stretch by a couple of big prototype machines.
Now, there's Brian right up on the tail of the BF Goodrich Porsche 962. And here's a good chance. Now we can compare horsepower of a 6.5-liter V12 motor to a 3.2-liter 6-cylinder. Great shot right there to watch. Now, look at this. The Jaguar with 700 horsepower is closing up, and he's going to pass him. Ducks low on the banking. No problem.
The BF Goodrich machine being driven by Darren Brassfield and John Morton, but no match for the Jaguar.
That's strange. I'm sure that last year we may have had a different picture because the turbocharged cars did have the boost control knob inside the cockpit. It was really at the driver's choice. If he wanted to dial in an extra 150 or 200 horsepower, he could do that. Particularly a strong advantage here on the banking, too. You turn up the boost on the banking, you get to the infield, you turn it back. So you save gas, you save all that heat still to the road.
We have word now from pit road. We heard earlier that car owner Rick Hendricks said that Wally Dallenbach would probably not get into the second Chevy Corvette, that it would probably be Doc Bundy who takes over the car. In fact, it is Dallenbach now driving the 52 Chevy Corvette, presently shown in 4th position. Here is Scott Pruitt once again leading the GTO category. Big Ford day here at Daytona International Raceway. Pruitt is presently, let me correct myself, in second place in the division. His teammate Bruce Jenner is leading. Now Jenner has a shot at the GTO championship. Jenner has to win, has to hope that Scott Pruitt drops out of this race in order to win the championship over his teammate. Scott Pruitt right now in great shape to bring him both the GTO championship and the driver championship. Now there's Bruce Jenner on pit road, so we're going to have another shuffling again in the GTO category.
Well, Bruce has got to be so pleased with the ride that he was able to get this year with Roush Racing, because these cars have been absolutely bulletproof. Just tremendous reliability. It's like your typical American car. It used to be that you don't buy European because they break down. You stay with your good old V8 Chevy or Ford. And racing really has come this way. This car is just the most indestructible car on the track.
There once again is Scott Pruitt, who has assumed the lead in the GTO category now. 25-year-old driver out of Roseville, California. A little bit earlier in the weekend, Gary Lee went to chat with Scott about his karting past and asked him how much that affected his driving skills.
There are go-kart drivers all over the country cheering for you because you've been holding their flag, carrying the colors. You've been a very fast rise, really, from go-kart competition to where you're racing right now. Give a few comments, if you will, about that type of racing, and do the go-karts really serve as a good springboard for the young aspiring driver?
I definitely think so. I mean, Formula One is a lot of the drivers there start out in go-karts. I started out in go-karts, and I feel it's really given me a lot of experience and a lot of help in my driving, and really taught me to be smooth. With the go-karts, you're not working with much horsepower, so you're forced to be smooth if you're going to be fast. It also gave you a real good feeling of racing together, racing in groups, and racing wheel to wheel. Out here, you don't even race as close as we do in karts. You can be 3 or 4 abreast and try not to beat people in for. I think that more and more good drivers are going to come from kart racing, because right now, with everything getting as expensive as it is, it's hard for somebody with not very much money to get started, to get something going. And karting is a good way to get yourself started. It's a good way to get out there and start competition, competing. And you also get to feel exactly how good a driver you are. If you go out there and you just start shining and start winning all the races, then you know you probably be pretty good in cars. But if you go out there and you're not doing very fast, you're always struggling, you don't like the cars, you can't handle them, and so on, then I'll kind of answer your question for you without spending a lot of money trying to answer that question.
Well, reviewing our top 5, your leader is the 52 Jaguar, Wally Dahlen back at the controls. 52 Corvette, that is. Jaguar in second, BMW third, Jaguar fourth, and a Porsche in fifth position. We'll be back to more live racing at Daytona International Raceway right after the
beginning of recorded history.
We are back live at Daytona for the Eastern Airlines 3-hour Grand Prix. Bob Julius. The Jag's not always the fastest, but it's been very consistent this weekend.
Well, we've had our lumps this year, but we've made some special changes and some special effort for this race. See, it's out the last one and probably the last with 2 cars, and we think the cars are as good as they can be for this race, and they're going pretty good. I see Brian's up in second, and I think we're running fourth, Chip and I, so it'll be a while to the end, and maybe we'll both get up front.
You're indicating again perhaps only a 1-car team for next season. Will you be involved?
Oh, yes, I'll be involved, but we're weighing a lot of options and looking at the rule situation and seeing where our normally aspirated car can ultimately end up. It's up to the bosses, and we'll look for them to make an announcement in the next couple of weeks.
Will the 3-liter make the Jag more competitive next year?
Well, as you make the turbocharged cars smaller, they just run a higher boost. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. They can make the same horsepower with 3 liters as they can with 3.5 liters. They might make them a little less reliable, but when you got a dozen of them to race against, one of them's going to make it through. So it makes the odds pretty tough.
Once again, he confirms that Bob Tullius will be back with Jag in 1987.
Okay, thank you, Gary. That's good news. No siege mentality there, huh, Bill? Racing all those Porsches. Okay, there is your leader, Wally Dallenbach, driving a very, very clean stint in the Chevy Corvette. You mentioned the word clean. Bill, tell me what you mean.
Well, Wally impressed me a couple of weeks ago, and I went and watched him win a Trans Am race in Sears Point, California, driving a V6 engine Camaro. He was just a very neat, precise driver. You watch the way he's driving here, it's just no effort on it. Now, here's our interesting car that you briefly mentioned earlier in the race, the Porsche 961. A lot of the viewers will have heard of it, will have seen this Porsche 959 on magazine covers all over the world. It really is just about the most desirable car in the world right now. Incredibly fast, unbelievably complex. And the 961 is the racing version of it. This is a 4-wheel drive race car. It's an amazing transition with twin turbos, a very high horsepower car, but look at this, just smooth, effortless. It looks a little bit strange out there actually with some of the 962s and the very exotic prototype. This is an incredibly sophisticated car right here.
You're looking at the car that finished 7th overall in its debut at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, France last May. Being driven today by Porsche engineer Gunther Steckening and Canadian Porsche specialist Kees Mura. This machine, in its first effort, as I said, finished 7th. Whoa, 4-wheel drive, helping keep the car on the road at that point. There have been problems with the car this weekend. This is its North American debut. They're running on Dunlop tires that are experimental, and obviously they're having a little trouble with their stick-em. Twice they have exploded tires. They've bumped up some of the bodywork a little bit. But this is said to be the future of sports car racing. Twin turbos, 4-wheel drive. There goes Al Holbrook moving on around.
Oh, he's in a hurry. You can see his headlights on there. He's trying to play that little extra game. If there's something he can do to create attention to him coming through the pack, he wants to alert those cars that he's coming up to, make them watch the mirror. Sometimes the headlights help a little bit. They may pick him up and just help him get by. He doesn't want any more incidents right down here where he spun out earlier in the race.
Amazing machine. When you see it up against the big GTO cars and the sleek prototype cars, it really does kind of look like a turtle.
That's a funny looking little car, but I would very much like it parked in my driveway.
There is the number 2 Ford Probe. Now that is one of the 4-cylinder, 2.1-liter turbocharged probes being driven right now by Drake Olson, I believe. Tom Gloy standing by to get into that machine as the Ford team is shuffling its GTP drivers with the absence of Klaus Ludwig's leading probe, the number 7 car. You may have, if you were with us early, you may have noticed the 7 car went out with turbo problems early on. So the Ford fortunes right now rest with this number 2 car.
really a difficult day for a lot of manufacturers. Chevrolet is having so many problems by losing Willie T. ribs, and here we've got two of the Fords out of the race now. It's a strange race right now. It's a tremendously fast race, and I think that's part of the problem.
A little bit earlier, Bill took a look at the kinds of cars out here in this Camel GT race today. Let's take a look at that now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Daytona, where we have the fight of the century. In this corner, the Challenger, weighing in at 2,500 pounds, powered by a 305 cubic inch reach. And in this corner, the reigning champion, the Ford Mustang, 351 cubic inch reach, but weighing in at 2,700 pounds. Which car is going to walk away with the championship, the all-important GTO championship? That remains to be seen. But we have more challengers, more serious contenders for this throne. Let's have a look at some of these cars right now. This has been the strongest challenge of the year. The Toyota, which is a 128 cubic inch turbocharged 4-cylinder Challenger, has already won 2 decisive battles, one at Elkhart Lake, one at Watkins Glen. Weighing in at only 2,100 pounds, this car is utilizing the latest in technology to defeat the higher cubic inch cars from Detroit. And here is the car that may become dominant in next year's season, the new Porsche 961. A 168 cubic inch, 2,500 pound Challenger, but with something radical, a 4-wheel drive race car. No one has tried this before, and if anybody can make it work, Porsche will. And here is our final challenger, the brand new Mazda RX-7 of Roger Mandeville. This Challenger weighs in at 2,200 pounds, and because it is a rotary engine, we don't know how many cubic inches it has. Next season, 5 Challengers, not just the 2. Ford, Chevrolet, Porsche, Toyota, and Mazda. And with the Mazda incredible reputation for reliability, who's to say who's going to win? Ladies and gentlemen, pick your winner.
Well, thank you, Bill. And here's a factor in which will be the winner. This is one of the Toyota Celicas, the turbo car, Dennis Ossie. We mentioned earlier that he was having problems. He's looking at the left front wheel area. Chris Cord remains the only Toyota still on the track. Apparently, the left front wheel is basically gone.
Gee, that's awfully frustrating. Dennis is a very good personal friend of mine, and I was really very happy to see him come up with those 2 victories this year. Something you could just notice. Now, here he's running after his tire. That's actually his wheel that is part of company with the car. He just had a quick look under the front there, maybe to determine if there's any suspension damage. And obviously there can't be because he's rushing. He's trying to get the car back up.
Well, while he does his tire change, you're watching the leader in the GTO class and potential GTO champion, Scott Pruitt, will be back at Daytona International Raceway after these messages. PN, Penn State going to 8-0 yesterday with a big win over second-ranked Alabama. Next Saturday, Mike Patrick, Pat McAnally, and Tim Brand will be at West Virginia for one of the great rivalries in Eastern football. Penn State and West Virginia, live, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on ESPN. Well, we are racing. There is your leader, Wally Dallenbach Jr. in the Chevy Corvette. 2 victories already this season. Gary Lee is standing by now with Doc Bundy, who will take over that car a little later in the race. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, we think Doc Bundy might take over the ride. A great job by the youngster out there right now, and I thought you were ready to go right back out, but you say you're just kind of standing by?
Yeah, I'm just standing by just in case Wally gets a little bit tired, but he's doing fine, so he should be able to stay in one more stint, then Sorrow will relieve him to the end.
So your day may be over.
Yeah, I come in too early for lunch, and they took my car away.
It's pretty tough to eat lunch with a racing helmet on.
Yeah, well, it is a little tough, but I'm always ready just in case something happens.
Just in case, Doc's standing by.
Okay, thank you, Gary. One of the great free spirits of Camel GT Racing, Doc Bundy. And there is the car that he is concerned about, the Chevy Corvette that has turned the fastest lap of the day, 124.9 miles an hour. Sarah Vandenberg did that a little earlier, just under the record, but it is warm and quite humid here in Daytona today. The average race speed thus far, 44 laps down, 114.207 miles an hour. That is way over the race record, and barring any complications or yellow flags, this man, Wally Dallenbach Jr., has everything under control. Less than 2 hours to go.
He looks awfully comfortable out there right now. He's really not showing any signs of being a rookie in this car and driving it just so smoothly. Really doing a nice job.
A great sedan racer, Wally Dallenbach Jr., last year's Trans Am champion, driving for the Ford Ford team of Jack Roush, presently being spearheaded by Scott Pruitt. Wally Dallenbach had that car last year, just demolished everybody else in the series.
There's something interesting there, Bob. That looked like the RC car was actually moving a little bit. Yes, it is.
The 46 car, that's a Buick-powered March, was parked on the infield for a long time. I guess we can only assume that the driver managed to make whatever repairs were needed, and he's back underway.
He was going out for a can of RC.
Wendy Gantz and Jim Crawford piloting that car today. They have had nothing but trouble all weekend. They were breaking exhaust headers. They barely got in a single lap of practice. Obviously, the race is going just about that well. And there's the leader, Wally Dallenbach, trying to put a lap on the Porsche number 16 of Price Cobb and Rob Dyson.
You know, the viewers will see the fire at the back of the Corvette. That's really not anything. But you can see it there in the Porsche, too. Huge, big belch of flame. That's nothing to worry about. With the turbocharger spinning at incredibly high RPM, 80, 90,000 RPM, sometimes they'll force raw fuel right through the motor, and not all of it can be burned since you're in a throttle-off situation. This fuel goes out the exhaust pipe and is simply ignited by the temperature, so nothing to worry about.
Okay, now we've got a battle developing for first place here. You see Wally Dallenbach making his way around in the black and silver Corvette. The 04 Jaguar in second place, that's Hurley Haywood. The winningest drivers in history here at Daytona. He has won at Le Mans. He knows sports cars, and he knows how to get by Wally Dallenbach, it would seem.
Well, I don't think Wally will really battle him too hard. At this point, what he wants to do is to do a nice clean shift in the car, turn it back over in great working order, and if necessary, Cyril can get back in, turn the boost up, and really take a run at it. I don't think anyone would argue with Cyril in that car and the boost up. There is nothing to touch the Corvette at Daytona.
Nose-to-tail action as Wally Dallenbach leads Hurley Haywood.
Just look what that horsepower has done in a very brief section of track. Just pulled out a strong lead right away, but coming into traffic, this helps the Jag. They've got that immediate V12 response. The power is right there, right away. It'll bring them back up.
A little bobble there as you watch the 53 car, another one of those old Chevy Marches, still hanging in there about 4 years after that car was designed.
Yeah, look at this, just blowing by the Dyson Porsche up on the banking, and now the Jaguar's closing up on Dyson as well. Let's see if Hurley takes a shot at passing him under braking. Now, Wally's going awfully low. He's coming into the pits.
So we have a pit stop coming up a little bit earlier. We have a lot of action on pit road. Now, you see the 19, that's the BMW. David Hobbs out. John Watson getting in. Now, I was about to say that the Chevrolet Turbo is a very thirsty car, so it could be a routine stop for them, but the BMW is not. It's only 4 cylinders turbocharged. I can't imagine that this would be a routine stop for them.
No, they probably have very similar fuel economies because they're both cranking out tremendous amounts of horsepower. It's a case of feeding all those horses. The BMW does run a 4-cylinder motor that's much smaller than the Chevrolet engine, but they run a very high boost to try and get that horsepower. And of course, the boost relates to the amount of fuel that is being forced into the motor.
Okay, you see the Chevy Corvette pulling back out. The new leader is the 04 Jaguar. You see him there, third in line behind the 16 Porsche. There is Hurley Haywood, 38 years old, out of Ponte Vedra, Florida.
Oops. A couple of little wiggles there going on the banking. That particular area of track can really get slick because you're accelerating from a speed of probably 30 miles an hour. And these cars do get limited amounts of wheel spin. So you're
body. We're back at Daytona International Raceway as you watch that bodywork continue to flop on the 04 Jaguar, leading the race at this point. Hurley Haywood making his way around, but he must be aware, Bill, of the fact that that bodywork is flapping. He loses the bodywork. Well, sports car racers call it delamination, and it can be disastrous.
Oh, boy, just about a year ago, the Jags were doing some testing here on these very cars. They were brand new at that point. And Chip Robinson had the bodywork part company with him. Coming out of turn 4 at probably 200 miles an hour. It really destroyed the car. Tremendously frightening, as you might well imagine.
Best performance thus far this year for this team. Third place finishes for this car at Palm Beach, at Sears Point, and at Columbus. Halfway through the race, they would very much like a victory. Here's an interesting story. The number 2 Ford Probe. This is a 4-cylinder turbo, 2.1, liter turbocharged car, and it is painted green. Green is said to be the bad color, the dangerous color, the jinx of motorsports, but obviously the Zaxby Ford Probe team doesn't think so.
Really an exotic car, too. This carbon fiber chassis is far and away the most advanced car out here. Built a lot by Ford Aerospace. They utilize a great deal of just the latest possible design on this. modular chassis. You can actually take it apart into little boxes. It's a strange car. It's not like what you picture a car having a frame as long steel rails, just these little plastic boxes put together.
The future of sports car racing. Gary Lee has more from the Ford pit.
Well, Tom Gloy is in the car, and yesterday we asked about these tires, and I said, Tom, is this a Halloween prank? Did somebody just dump paint all over your rim, wheel assembly, and the tire as well? He just kind of chuckled and said, well, I don't really know. In fact, it looks like something from a Saturday night jalopy race where you just spray everything. However, I was thinking, Bill, there is a Formula One car that is green and white, and they also spray the sidewalls of the tires and the wheel assembly. Could this be a preview of a new sponsor for next season?
It's funny, Gary, just you said that, I was thinking the same thing, that the Benetton Formula One team has their green and white race car, and they have those wild colors all over it. Maybe it is something to foretell future.
There may be an announcement in the future, but Ford is not saying anything right now, but we could have a new sponsor in '87.
That would be a nice inclusion. There's certainly a very colorful, very successful team now in Formula One racing. It'd be nice to see them in IMSA.
There you see the Zero car. That is Paulo Barilla, I believe, judging from the helmet, about to get in. You see John Winter getting out. John Winter, by the way, is a pseudonym. His name is not John Winter. We won't give away his secret. He races under a pseudonym for family reasons over in Europe. Paulo Barilla will be getting in. Barilla and their third co-driver, Bob Wallach, have combined on one victory this year, that at Miami. Wallach drove, ironically, with Scott Pruitt, your GTO leader, at Columbus to victory. So Bob Wallach definitely fills out a team well.
My very favorite car winning at Columbus as well. Bayside Porsche.
Bruce Levin, an old friend of yours. Levin's team not here. It's a long haul from Seattle to Daytona Beach, Florida. As you watch Paulo Barilla taking the Zero car, Porsche 962, back onto the track. 4 cars presently on the lead lap. We are approaching our 50th lap in this afternoon's event. Your leader, the 04 Jaguar Hurley Haywood. In second place, the 44 Jaguar. 1-2 Jaguar sweep at this point. In third place, the 18, the junior BMW of Davy Jones and John Andretti, followed by Wally Dallenbach Jr. in the Corvette number 52 and the number 16 Porsche. Rob Dyson now leading with Bryce Cobb standing by in case Rob needs relief.
Well, this is going to have Bob Julius really smiling now. His car is running 1 and 2. A very strong performance. Again, at the School of Holbert Racing, where you build something very strong, you just do that very consistent performance. You run strong laps, run up a pace that's going to keep you there without breaking the car. Bob Julius is a master of strategy.
And what a victory it would be for the Jaguar team, who have not been able to get one in the last 2 seasons. We talked with Hurley a little bit earlier, Gary Lee did, to ask him about the pressures of not winning in so very long.
Realistically, Group 44 needs a victory this season. Does that put more pressure on you because you have been the most successful driver down here?
Well, I wouldn't say it puts any more pressure on me. You're right. Jaguar does need a win this year. We've been so close on so many number of occasions, and some always knocks us out of contention. But here, you know, we've got good motors. We got our 6.5-liter motors, and they're reliable now. We got a little over 700 horsepower, and yeah, I think the cars can be competitive here. We're working to get a little better road holding on the infield, and by Sunday, these are, and I've always said this, these are great race cars. They're not good qualifiers because qualifying the turbocharged cars turn the boost up and go for it. But when the race comes around, the Jaguar is a great race car.
Great race car indeed, with a long tradition as you watch the 04 car making its way around one of the backmarker GTO machines. 50 laps now in the books.
I see that rear bodywork is still flapping, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for Hurley. They've now got the wing mounted separately. It's not attached to the bodywork. Really, that's the most critical part. If something had happened where the bodywork could have flown off and taken the wing with it, instant disaster. But at this point, the air is actually forcing down on that bodywork and keeping it on the car.
Hurley Haywood making his way around, tiptoeing through the hard hairpin into the kinks onto the infield section of this 3.56-mile course, down the short chute to a tight 180-degree right-hander.
You can see a little bit of damage there at the top of that left front fender. What I think that is, Bob, is when these cars get onto the banking, they're getting loaded down so heavily, the suspension almost bottoms out, and the tires can actually come into contact with the bodywork. Well, if the tire is spinning at 200 miles an hour, it's traveling so quickly, it acts like a sanding disc and bores its way through the bodywork. This looks like what's happened to the Jaguar here.
There you see the damage to the front left, tire expanding, car wanting to force itself down. To tell us a little bit more about the machines we're watching here today, International Motorsports Association and ESPN present a Track Fact.